Hello everyone. For this video, we're going to be looking at topographic maps and hopefully learning how to understand what they represent. So a topographic map represents a bird's eye view, a top-down view of a hill or a mountain or any slope. And what it should allow you to do when you understand them is look at a flat map, a two-dimensional map, and imagine what that three-dimensional area would look like. So these are really useful. For example, if you're planning a hike, you can look at a topographic map and determine which hiking trails are steeper or which ones will have the most amount of climb or the least amount of climb throughout it. So topographic maps are useful, especially in an area like Timnath or Fort Collins that has mountains nearby. So when we are reading a topographic map, we first need to understand that the lines on the map, so these lines, represent areas of a specific elevation. So this outermost line, which is labeled with a 300, represents 300 feet of elevation. So anywhere that line touches is exactly 300 feet above sea level. The next line in is labeled 400 feet. So everywhere that line touches is exactly 400 feet of elevation. And what that tells us is the area between the lines. So this open space here where it's wide, or even that narrow open space over here, that is somewhere between 300 feet and 400 feet of elevation. And that tells us that it's probably some sort of slope going upwards at all points. So we don't know if it's, it could be gentle or it could be steep and then flattening out pretty quickly, but it is going from 300 feet to 400 feet in that space. One of the things that can confuse people is that they sometimes mistakenly think that the number, that 300, represents the elevation of this open space, and that is not the case. The elevation is the line. So this line's 300 feet, this line's 400 feet. That open space is transitioning from 300 to 400 feet. We then go up to 500 feet, up to 600 feet, 700 feet, and finally to 800 feet. The other thing that you can determine from a topographic map is how steep the slope is. When the lines are spaced far apart, like they are on the left-hand side of this hill, that represents a shallow slope. Because we have to travel a greater distance left to right to get 100 feet of elevation gain, it is shallower than we would see on the right-hand side of the map, where we can travel a relatively short distance and climb almost 300 feet of elevation. So the closer together lines are on a topographic map, the steeper the slope. The further apart the lines are, the shallower the slope. So when we are looking at this, we can start to imagine what the three-dimensional shape would look like. We know it's going to be roughly cone-shaped because all of the lines are approximately circles and the elevation climbs all the way into the middle. So if we were imagining the shape, we would know it's something like a cone where it's the highest at the top. And we know that this cone going from left to right, has a shallow slope. Those lines are spaced pretty far apart. Going from right to left, it will start steep. It will shallow out. It'll get flat between 400 and 500 feet of elevation, and then it'll get steep again up to 800 feet of elevation. So if I want you to pause the video and on somewhere in your notebook, try and figure out what this slope would look like. See if you can draw a three-dimensional view of what this mountain would look like. And it doesn't have to be perfect or super detailed, but just see how you can interpret this topographic map. And when you've drawn it out, resume the video and you can compare what you drew to what I've drawn below. Right, here is my interpretation of this map. So this is a hill that is roughly cone-shaped, but you can see that it is a shallower slope going from left to right. It is steep from 800 down to 500 feet, gets shallow from 500 to 400, and then gets a little bit steeper from 400 down to 300 feet. So as you get better at topographic maps, drawing them like this will become a little bit easier, but hopefully this video will help you complete the topographic map analysis worksheet that you should be starting right after this. As always, thank you for watching, and let me know if you have any questions.